It's me, Tony. I'm not Shane. I'm not Shane. But according to Eric Bischoff, he doesn't even think Tony Khan is Dixie Carter. Welcome back, guys, to Fog Wrestling. And in Eric Bischoff's opinion, Tony Khan might be the worst booker that he's ever seen because he claims that his booking abilities in pro wrestling are inferior to former TNA president Dixie Carter. Now, Bischoff went on here to defend TNA and he tried to point out that, believe it or not, TNA had some memorable moments and done some good stuff before he got there and after he got there. And I think there's some sort of false belief that TNA's always been garbage, and that's definitely not the case.
No, yeah, it's a false narrative. Yeah, we're watching it right now, but I watched it years ago. TNA from pretty much TNA from its inception right up to, honestly, 2013 for a good decade, TNA was good / great.
Yeah, and it way better than AEW. Not even close.
Old TNA smokes current WWE. Smokes any. It does. Look at the rosters alone.
I remember watching TNA in the late 2000s, thinking it was just as good, if not better, than WWE.
Yeah.
I remember every time you watched a TNA paper, I feel like you felt like you got your money's worth.
Yeah, what doesn't help TNA though is the fact, Flair, Bischoff, Hogan, even Angle, everyone distance himself from it like it's a bad smell, but they fucking WCW.
Yeah, but you know what? I think that's because WCW's owned by WWE.
Right, probably. Well, so what we need is Triple H to stick his nose in the TNA pie.
I truly believe as soon as if TNA was ever bought by WWE, these people would come out more favourably and speak more positively about TNA. That's what I think anyway. Because it seems to be when they all leave and they all go back to WWE, that's when they are. Although Kurt Angle's always come out and says that he had a better career in TNA than he did WWE.
Yeah, that just shows you though, right? How good TNA was, because people would say Sting's best years were in TNA. Angle himself literally said that. Dudley's had great years in TNA. Steiner had great years in TNA.
Yeah, so if all these guys think they had great years, all these legends believe they had a great career in TNA, then how could TNA possibly be bad? But Eric Bischoff, he has criticised Dixie Carter a lot in the past. Didn't think that she knew anything about wrestling at times, but I guess he believes that her knowing nothing is still knowing more than Tony Khan. Work that one out if you can. But this
if you can.
If you can. But this is what Eric Bischoff had to say regarding both Dixie Carter, TNA, Tony Khan, and AEW. Bischoff said the following on his podcast. He said, quote, "Well, I think the question was, who is a better booker? Although Dixie didn't aspire to be perceived to be the head booker of TNA, she at least knew what she didn't know and brought in people to do that for her. That's why I think she's a better booker than Tony Khan, because she recognised what her weaknesses were and tried to surround herself at various times with various people to operate in that world. Whereas Tony thinks he's a good booker and clearly is not. Tony Khan doesn't know what he doesn't know. Despite the obvious data being that Tony is a data analyst from what I've been told, you would think one simple look at the numbers would go, okay, well this sucks, it's not working, so I'm going to do something different. Dixie would have done something different. Tony's not doing anything different. I think Dixie, in retrospect, was a better booker. If you look at the quality, you can argue about TNA, and people laugh at TNA a lot now, or used to, but I think AEW would love to have the quality of content that TNA had for a long time before I got there, and even while I was there and afterwards. TNA gets a bad rap in a lot of ways. Some of it they deserve, a lot of it they don't. Go back and just watch some of those shows. There were some great stories, some great actions, some top talent in there, and you have top talent in AEW as well. AEW's issue is not a talent issue, it's a Tony Khan issue. Dixie understood that and she didn't try to be the booker. She wanted to be perceived as the female Vince McMahon, so to speak, of the wrestling industry. There's nothing wrong with that. That was a lofty goal for her. Tony Khan wants the same thing, but he's not willing to surround himself or listen to the people that he is surrounded by to help achieve it. End of quote. So there's Bischoff on AEW, basically saying that Dixie Carter didn't really care about having all the control, didn't really care about being the head booker, and she was willing to bring in people and listen to others and surround herself with people more knowledgeable and trust their opinions in order to try and make her show the best that it was. I mean, she was the boss, but she was willing not to be the ones making the final decisions on a lot of occasions, whereas we've got Tony Khan. I mean, not only does he want to be the boss, but he also wants to be the head booker. He wants to control everything. He wants to have the final say on every little detail, every little story. And I mean, I definitely see where Bischoff's coming from.
Yeah, it's better to do nothing than too much. And Dixie Carter doing nothing and getting other people in my opinion, is better by default than Tony Khan. Because Tony Khan is out of his depth, man. Just look at the state of the shows recently and in the 5-year tenure. It's so all over the place. It's a guy. I mean, look at the match that Ricochet and Takeshita just announced on X. What's that?
Yeah, I tell you what. I know Bischoff didn't mention this, but holy shit, is Dixie Carter a better worker than Tony Khan? Look at that powerbomb through the table she took for Bully Ray.
Absolutely.
Look at Tony Khan. That's that body punch that he took.
No, but it's
and then the pile driver.
It's things like the Darby Allin thing on the pay-per-view last night. It's been confirmed that he was actually driving, and he split his head open off the dashboard.
Well, when we watched that, that's what I assumed.
That's what we thought. And it's like, that's where you need somebody with a level head and being like, right, see the way CM Punk told Jack Perry not to use real glass? That's where you need. That's where Jericho, if he's there, should be like, right, he shouldn't be doing that. I know he's a daredevil, but there's no point. The fans are going to think he did it. What's the point of actually doing it? See, when you can take precautions, right? It's like, see when you're out in the ring, see Foley, he has to get thrown off the Hell in a Cell. You can't cover it up.
Even if Darby Allin wants you to believe he injured himself in the car crash, he could just use a bit of fake blood. You don't actually have to bust yourself open the hard way. Fucking actually legit in the crash.
Or if he wants to blade. I think blading, no one's really going to agree about blading, but it's the fact that he's drove into, a big pickup truck
done it the hard
50
way.
mile an hour, smashed his dome off the... And you could clearly see that, and it's like, that's just a lack of leadership.
But yeah, no, I agree with Bischoff. I mean, Dixie Carter obviously knew of her weaknesses, and you look at the people she surrounded herself with, there was a lot of experienced people in TNA, and I'm not just talking in terms of talents, I'm talking about when you look at the people backstage. There was a lot of experienced, legendary people in TNA at the time.
Yeah.
She surrounded herself by a lot of people that had been in the business and had, decades of experience.
That's the problem, though. AEW's got a lot of experience as well, but you know what? They're all just there. They're getting the most money they've ever got, and they're just happy to take a paycheck.
They're just there collecting a paycheck.
Yeah, they're just ass kissers. See, in TNA, you felt like we're looking from the outside in. It's like, see Jarrett and people like that, they actually cared about the direction. They weren't just there to take a paycheck.
Yeah, so
and I think WWE's the same as well. But you look at AEW, it's simple. See when you've got jobbers on like $5 million a year, they don't give a fuck about the writing or the booking.
No, they don't. All they care about is the money going into their paycheck. But I agree with Bischoff. I don't even think it's close.
No, it's not.
We can argue who's better between Dixie Carter and Tony Khan, and you can say Tony. You can argue Tony Khan's better if you want, but you can't argue that AEW is better than TNA. TNA in its absolute prime destroys AEW.
Yeah. Ratings.
The only thing... AEW was better at selling tickets, but honestly, I think that was...
Yeah, like better production values and things like that. They've got more money.
But that is partly down to the fact that, Tony Khan is a billionaire. And
put it this way,
even though the Carter family were super rich, there was only so much money they were willing to invest, and who knows, maybe... they were willing to try and give out big contracts to get, legends in. Maybe they should have invested a bit of that money in production or trying to. Because say what you want. See, anytime TNA came to the UK, man, they used to pack it. I remember I went there, the Hydro in Glasgow. TNA on the house shows absolutely used to pack out in the UK. Like, TNA got more views in the UK in its prime than WWE did. Now, I get it, it was on Free View TV and you can make the case or whatever, but still, you know, it certainly was doing well. But I think the one negative about TNA, I think when you look back at it, I mean, yeah, it could have tried to venture into bigger arenas and maybe stadiums one day. I mean, you look at AEW and it's got the stadium shows, and you can't take that away from them. AEW will always say, look, we've done a 60,000, 70,000 stadium or whatnot. TNA never had that. I think the most they done was like a 18,000 arena at Bound for Glory one year.
And that is tragic. There's no excuse, so you don't need money to do that. You don't. There's the demand, you can sell it.
So when I think about it, maybe that's what... I'm not saying TNA were wrong for being in the Impact Zone every week, but I think maybe they could have definitely went on the road a bit more.
Broaden their horizons.
Aye, anyway. Who's better? Dixie Carter? Eric Bischoff? Tony Khan? I'm going to go with Dixie.
It's obviously Dixie Carter. Tony Khan's got all the money in the world, right? And he signed a lot of guys that are good, and he still can't deliver. I mean, put it this way, if you switch the money that both companies had, and as we said, yeah, TNA had money but didn't really utilise it. If anybody in the world had Tony Khan's money, right, and had like the pool that he's got with it, with TV deals, I'm convinced they'd do a better job. It's just because this guy's a mark and he caters to one guy. It's Dave Meltzer.
Dave Meltzer. Anyway, who would Meltzer say is better between Dixie and Tony? Well, we know.
Man.
We all know the answer to that. Anyway, guys, let us know down below who do you think's better. Maybe we'll put it up for a poll. Aye, maybe we'll put it up for a poll. Anyway, guys, that's it. We'll catch you in the next one. Till then, been Fog Wrestling, TNA, and its prime shits all over AEW.